No matter who you are, where you're from, or what culture you were raised in, we all think the same way based entirely on the information we have. We can't know things when we are denied access to them, or even worse, are given perverted or twisted information instead. And this affects our decision-making process, the way we choose to live our life, and in many cases, how we think others should be living theirs. If you think this sort of thing only goes on in closed groups that meet in dark rooms, or that you aren't affected by this every day, I'd invite you to think again. All of us are subject to informational manipulation. This is most readily seen in the news media, who slant stories with an editorial bias for various reasons, giving us only some of the facts or only those which support their version of events. But what about educators or politicians? And what about ourselves? Aren't we all party to this when we contribute to pushing agendas that align with our own beliefs and attitudes and don't give the actual truth a fair shake in the court of public opinion? For example, I've recently come across an all too common misconception that the phrase, "In God we trust," was the slogan the United States was founded on. Do you know how much trouble that one piece of false information causes? There are far too many politicians, including presidential candidates, who aspire to what is arguably the most powerful political office in the entire world, who don't know their own country's history well enough to realize that America is not and never was founded on Christian principles. In fact, exactly the opposite is true. I actually doubt that very many of the politicians, preachers, or Christians who push this agenda have actually read the United States Constitution, and certainly haven't gone anywhere near the Federalist Papers or other writings of those who authored our country's founding documents. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and others from their time period have noted in their own journals and diaries, as well as in their speeches and public writings, that they went way out of their way to not make this a Christian nation because they didn't want exactly what is going on now. Religious influence shaping the direction of government-run institutions to such an extent that it allows for discrimination against those who don't follow the herd mentality and fall in line with those who so callously believe that God is on their side. The freedom to practice one's religion includes the freedom to not practice any religion at all. This was what the Founding Fathers had in mind when they penned our nation's documents and its laws. Up until 1958, this country's national slogan was E pluribus unum, which is Latin for out of many, one. That is the principle this country was founded on, a brotherhood of many beliefs, many ideas, many cultures, and many backgrounds, but united under one banner, that of the United States of America. That's where the concept of this country being a melting pot comes from, something so many Americans seem to have forgotten in this day of outright hatred toward immigrants or anyone who doesn't fit some kind of 1950s Leave It to Beaver conservative image. It wasn't until 1958, in the midst of the Cold War with the Soviet Union, that the U.S. Congress decided that our slogan of unity was somehow inadequate to counter the perceived atheism of our Russian enemy. And in a fit of insanity, they changed the national slogan to "In God We Trust." They seem to be unaware of the fact that the Germans in both world wars and Imperial Russia before the time of the Soviet Union also had "God with us" emblazoned on their helmets and military insignia. Invoking God as somehow being on your side is a symbol of the hubris of governments and religious fanatics, much more than any kind of statement of real truth. It seems to escape the logic of such people that God might just love all of his creation equally and not really be interested in taking sides. He certainly didn't side with the imperialists during the Communist Revolution of 1917, nor the Germans in both world wars, no matter how many of their belt buckles and helmets said otherwise.